Ships, whether seagoing or spacegoing, have a long history of being magnets for superstition, in Star Trek as well as in the real world. Some ships are considered lucky by their crews, and others are considered cursed or even haunted, whether literally or metaphorically. Star Trek doesn't give us any real examples of a truly haunted ship, of course, but there are plenty that have the feel of a haunted or cursed vessel. Some have a long-running track record of bad luck, while others seem tainted by the terrible things that happened aboard them. In this video, we're going to be looking at 5 such starships from throughout Star Trek, ones where the vibes just seem a little bit off. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. We're enjoying making these Star Trek videos, and we hope you are too. If you want to support their development, check out our Patreon via the link below. Any support is greatly appreciated. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, because if you're talking about the Star Trek universe, then we want to hear about it. Okay, engage. Starting off, let's talk about a ship you're likely familiar with, the USS Voyager. Launched in 2371, the Voyager was an Intrepid-class starship captained by Catherine Janeway, and while it was originally dispatched to battle with a Maquis, its mission was upended when it was transported into the depths of the Delta Quadrant by an entity known as the Caretaker. Instead of its original mission, Voyager spent nearly its entire operational history just trying to get home. But if you've seen any of Star Trek Voyager, any of the 7 seasons, you know that Voyager's bad luck didn't really end there. In order to get home, Voyager had to fight some of the greatest alien threats known to Starfleet, overcome technical constraints and astronomical obstacles, and deal with all manner of nonsense all along the way. Having to reckon with a Kazon, Species 8472, and the Borg, all in one trip would almost be enough to make someone believe a ship is actually cursed. But that was really just the tip of the iceberg. Over the course of its journey, Voyager's crew had to deal with the Kazon spies in their midst, interference from Q and other bizarre entities, and multiple temporal anomalies. The ship was trapped in a quantum singularity, it duplicated twice, and was even stolen by the Kazon at one point. If there was ever a ship that the universe apparently hated, it was Voyager. Of course, Voyager's story could have been much worse, and the ship did have its fair share of good luck on the journey home as well. But it doesn't outweigh all the trials the Voyager and its crew endured, and we definitely say the ship was at least a little bit cursed. Or maybe the Delta Quadrant as a whole is cursed. Our next ship is the USS Defiant. Nope, not the 24th century one, but the 23rd century Constitution-class USS Defiant. This Defiant had entered service by 2256, and it served Starfleet for many years until 2268, when it was lured into a spatial interface by a distress signal. Upon entering this interface, the ship's crew began experiencing sensory distortions that drove them all mad. By the time the USS Enterprise arrived to investigate, the Defiant's entire crew had suffered psychotic breaks and wiped themselves out. Shortly thereafter, the Defiant was pulled through the spatial interface to the Mirror Universe's 22nd century, where it was captured by the Tholians. The Terran Empire later seized the ship, which Terran officer Hoshi Sato used to usurp the Imperial throne. If there was ever a ship that was left haunted after what happened aboard it, it was the Defiant. After the original crew was killed and the ship was forced into the Mirror Universe, it was an eerie sight, empty and dark, the ghost of another time in a world that it didn't belong to. The vibes were certainly off aboard this ship. How much of it has to do with what happened to the Defiant's crew is debatable, but the Defiant was definitely a haunted place, if not in the literal sense. Strange New Worlds gave us another eerie ship for us to shudder at, the USS Peregrine. The Peregrine was a Sombra-class starship captained by Alice Gavin. It was active in the mid-23rd century. In 2259, it rescued 3 refugees from a Gorn breeding planet, but unbeknownst to the crew, 2 of these refugees were infested with Gorn eggs. One of the refugees crippled the Peregrine with plasma grenades while trying to kill himself, and take the Gorn with him. This caused the ship to make an emergency landing on Velo Beta 5. After the crash, the Peregrine was quickly overrun by Gorn hatchlings. Almost everyone aboard the ship was killed, with the exception of the 2 remaining refugees. By the time the USS Enterprise showed up to investigate, the Peregrine was mostly lifeless, but not nearly lifeless enough. Fortunately, the Enterprise away team was able to rescue one of the surviving refugees and escape the Peregrine, but they suffered several losses in the process, including Chief Engineer Lieutenant Hemmer. Of course, by the time the Enterprise did show up, the Peregrine had become a very creepy place, not at least because it was infested with Gorn hatchlings. It was definitely a haunted ship, haunted by the Gorn at the very least. hey, it was also a freaky episode. Next up, we have the USS Lantree, a Miranda-class starship active from the late 23rd century to the mid-24th century. The Lantree was commanded by Captain Talaka and had a crew of just 26 in 2365, when contact with the starship was lost. The USS Enterprise D showed up to investigate. It found that the entire crew had aged to death, the victims of a bizarre disease. The crew had contracted this disease from a group of genetically enhanced children on Gagarin 4, whose antibodies caused the disease upon spreading to non-enhanced humans. In the end, the entire crew of the Lantree perished because of a chance encounter, with no way to prepare for or treat the disease that killed them. It was a serious stroke of bad luck, and again, it left the derelict Lantree with an eerie vibe. The ship was haunted by the fate of its crew, and it was also still infested with the rogue antibodies that had killed them off, causing it to spread to the Enterprise's boarding party. Of all the ships we're discussing today, the Lantree has the distinction of being the only one that was actually destroyed. The Enterprise D scuttled it with a photon torpedo after the nature of the disease that killed its crew became apparent, as this was the only way to prevent the disease from actually spreading further. The curse of the Lantree did end here. For our last cursed ship, we have none other than the USS Enterprise herself. The Enterprise legacy was a legendary one, but to be fair, many of the ships that bear the name had colourful histories, and if you consider all the improbable things to have befallen the various Enterprises over the years, you could be excused for thinking the name was cursed. But there's one Enterprise, in particular, we would like to focus on for this section, the Enterprise D. The Enterprise D went through a lot in its years of operation. It had the dubious honour of making first contact with the Borg. It was repeatedly hijacked, it was caught in a temporal causality loop, and its entire crew was nearly sold into slavery by a Ferengi captain on at least one occasion. But on top of arguably being cursed, the Enterprise D was also haunted. And in a more literal way than the other ships we discussed, the Enterprise was also haunted by Q, and there's truly no greater curse than that. Throughout the Enterprise's time in service, Q appeared regularly to pester the crew, subjecting them to various games in order to prove or disprove humanity's worthiness as a species. Members of the Enterprise crew were forced to participate in a simulated battle from the Napoleonic Wars, a concept Q drew from Captain Picard's irreparably French mind, and they were later made to play roles in the story of Robin Hood. Q also forced the Enterprise into a premature first encounter with the Borg, one that killed 18 members of the crew. Whether there's really such a thing as a cursed ship, in any sense of the word, is debatable. But if there is, Q and the nuisances he inflicted on the Enterprise were probably enough for that poor ship to actually qualify. Okay, so that's a look at some of Starfleet's most cursed vessels, at least in our opinion. Perhaps you know another cursed or haunted starship in the Star Trek universe. I mean, we can even consider the NX-02 Columbia. That thing was basically left with a bunch of dead crew members for a while, or maybe they were disintegrated. You'll have to go check our video on that one. Of course, if you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.